Hello, happy Thursday. Oh my gosh, I have been struggling with Spotify. I finally got, they changed a lot, and I think I said this before, I am not allowed to record in Spotify. So, and I'm not sure how to do the theme music at the beginning, how I usually have that theme music, and I don't have it anymore. So, um, I'm so sorry, I know. If I knew how to put a separate theme music, I used to know how to do that, but now I gotta kind of figure out how. I don't think I've done that before. I could probably try to figure it out maybe. But anyway, so it is Thursday, July 25th. Wow, we don't have long. It left in July at all. So I am drinking Java Mama Jamaican Me Crazy. Jamaican Me Crazy is so good. And I think I've talked about it before on the show with the Kahlua caramel. Yum, yum, yum. It is so good. But that's what I'm drinking this morning. And I'm trying to get my voice back. It's kind of been in and out. And this story that I have today is different. It's crime, but it's not murder. I talked before that I wanted to do a crime about scams, and this is one that goes way back, and I'm talking about the old days of scamming. Nowadays, it's more like internet scamming and stuff, but which I wish I could get more of those because I think those are good to talk about because it warns people. This is just unbelievable, this one here, but I guess if you could talk the talk, you can do it. And this is, like I said, this is how it was in the old days. My sources are wikipedia.org, ohiohistory.org, and findagrave.com. Okay, this is the story of Cassie Chadwick. And I don't know if many people have heard about her. She was one of the biggest scammers. Now, she came up with one of the big scams, that's why. But I found a lot of other people back then who did this kind of thing. Not like her, but they had other scams that's like, it's just unbelievable. Okay, Cassie was born in 1857 as Elizabeth Betty Bigley. Betty, I guess, was her nickname for Elizabeth. She was born in Ontario, Canada. She had the family had 6 girls and 2 boys. And the parents were Daniel and Marianne Bigley. And Cassie I didn't find much about her life with her parents. But he worked on a railroad. I mean, I don't think they had much money at all. She ran away from home. Now, one source said she was 14 and another source said she was 16. But she ran away from home and was arrested for forgery. She had a letter of inheritance of $250 from a farmer. And she forged the farmer's name on this $250. Now, I'm not sure exactly how the letter of inheritance works, if it's an IOU or what it is. But a lot of these things that I'm going to talk about are like IOUs. So she ended up getting arrested for this, and she got out of it because they said she was insane, or she said she was insane. One of them did. I don't know, but that's what happened with that because she got out of it. Then she was arrested in 1878 for trying to borrow money on a stolen pocket watch. Her father settled with the victim, so her father got her out of this one. So, I mean, she just keeps trying and trying and trying. Now, she created business cards stating that she was an heiress to $15,000. And remember, back then, this was a lot of money. Not like today, where, like at the first one I said $250. I can imagine what that would be like today in today's currency. I mean, I'm not sure. I didn't look it up. I probably should have, but she created the business cards and said she was an heiress. And what she did with these cards, she put these cards with forged promissory notes. Promissory notes are like IOUs. That's what they were. They called them that. And like kind of like loans. So she went ahead and wrote these out for loans, forged them, and put this business card with it saying she was an heiress to $15,000. Again, she was found insane. Her family ended up shipping her off to Cleveland, Ohio to live with her sister, Alice York. Now, her sister was married. Excuse me. Her husband was a Cleveland machinist. Don't know exactly what that is. But she wasn't there. I'm guessing it's someone that works on machines. I'm not sure. But she wasn't there very long, and she rented a place in Cleveland, which was like first floor in a house. She didn't stay with her sister very long at all. It was very brief. And she claimed to be, when she rented out this first floor in this house, she claimed to be Madame Lydia DeVere, a widow. She started working as a psychic. Another word for that is clairvoyant. That's I guess the proper name for it. I still say psychic. But she got married in 1882 as Lydia Springsteen. She latched onto a Dr. Wallace Springsteen, and he quickly learned about Cassie's past with her sister, because when her sister found out that they got married, it like hit the papers there. She went right to their house, and she said she wanted payback for debts Cassie had. Now, Cassie had debts with her sister. She used money her sister had to start her psychic job. It said she had she paid rent with money from her sister's furniture. I don't know if she sold her sister's furniture. That's what it sounded to me like. Or something. It was some kind of scam. I don't know what she did. I don't think she actually sold it. But her sister wanted the money back that she had indebted to her. And the doctor ended up throwing Cassie out of the house after he found out what she did, and filed for divorce. He also settled her debts, so she's clean again. So Cassie went back to her psychic business as Madame Marie LaRose. Different name. She married a farmer. This time, his name was John Scott, and she had him sign a prenuptial agreement because she said she had been abused by her first husband. I don't think that's necessarily true. They weren't even married that long. But anyway, Cassie filed for divorce after 4 years. She got into some hot water for forgery again in 1889 in Toledo, Ohio, and sentenced to 9.5 years. She was paroled in 1893. Again, forgery. And this was her first United States crime. It didn't say why she filed for divorce after 4 years for her marriage to John Scott. I never found out. But she then took the name Cassie Hoover and opened a brothel in Cleveland on the west side. Okay. Now, she found a wealthy widower and doctor, Leroy Chadwick. Boy, she knew how to find him, didn't she? It's like, how do you find out these doctors to marry? But Cassie acted as if she herself was a widow. And she ran a boarding house for women, like respectable women, for girls and women to go there. Well, the doctor told her, no, that's a brothel, and it's very well known in the area. And poor Cassie passed out at this news. Oh, she told him she would never run such a place. You've got to take me away from here, she told him. Take me away from here so that nobody knows I am associated with this place. Like, I didn't know that's what this was. So she couldn't have people thinking she was associated with it. So they got married in 1897. So that happened right before they were married. And Cassie had a son named Emil Hoover. Emil was taken care of by a worker at the brothel. The doctor, Leroy, husband, he may not have known about the boy at all. Matter of fact, he may not have known he even had a son. I read that and I'm like, was she staying at the brothel the whole time and he didn't know it? And I think he traveled a lot. So I don't know if he was like a traveling doctor or something, but he was always busy, and I guess maybe he didn't know she was pregnant. I think that's kind of odd to me, but I had to drink coffee. Okay. She was charged again with forgery and said she was single with no kids when she got arrested. She also got to know the wealthy families in Cleveland. And they lived on Euclid Avenue. That's called Millionaires Row. Since she attended social gatherings with her husband, she was able to get to know the wealthy. And soon after, she was in New York City, and she asked a friend of her husband's. His name was Dylan. He was a lawyer. He was like an acquaintance of her husband. I don't know if he knew them very well. It may have been some acquaintance. See, she got to know all these people going to these social events. And she asked him to please take her to Andrew Carnegie's home because he lived in New York. He had a mansion on Fifth Avenue. Well, Dylan took her and waited for her to go inside. She was inside for about a half an hour. And after coming back, she turned and waved before she got into the carriage, because they took carriages back then. She turned and waved to a man who was in a window, and he was very well dressed. Well, when she turned around, she waved to him, and then she turned around to get into the carriage, and she tripped. That's air quotes, quote unquote, tripped. And she dropped a document. Well, Dylan, the lawyer, picked it up and saw that it was a $2 million promissory note with Andrew Carnegie's signature. Andrew Carnegie was one of the richest Americans in history, and he led the expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century. And so the lawyer Dylan saw this, and Andrew Carnegie's signature was on it, and said, oh, well, she's telling the truth. Okay, this is legit, you know. Well, the guy in the window was really the butler, and when Cassie was inside, she talked to him about a maid she was going to hire, and she wanted the maid's credentials. That's what that was. That's what she acted as if when she went in to say she was going to hire a maid and wanted her credentials. So anyway, she told Dylan, the lawyer, that she was Andrew Carnegie's illegitimate child, and he had to keep it secret. He could not let her secret out. So he did. He kept it secret, and he already saw that she had that promissory note for $2 million. And she said that Andrew Carnegie showered her with money from his guilt. And she said she would inherit $400 million after Andrew Carnegie died. The lawyer friend got her a safe deposit box for her $2 million promissory note. See, back then, women couldn't do this. You had to have a man do your like banking, any type of credit or any type of like this safety deposit box. So she said she had $7 million more at home, tucked away in her house. And the financial markets heard about Cassie Chadwick, and that she was no, she wasn't Chadwick yet. Her last name ain't Chadwick yet, but that, you know, they heard about her, and that she was his illegitimate child, and she had all this money. So banks started offering services to her. I've never heard of this, but she was able to get loans that totaled $2 million. Now, about today would probably be over $70 million today, that $2 million. And she was able to get loans, all those loans, for 8 years. Excuse me. She figured that Andrew Carnegie would be so embarrassed if people knew he had a daughter outside of his marriage. So people wouldn't ask him about it. That's what Cassie held on to, the hope that nobody's going to ask him about this. This is way too embarrassing. And he would probably deny it anyway, you know. So banks assumed Carnegie would vouch for the debts, and once he died, they'd be repaid. So Cassie was buying so many clothes that she could fill 30 closets. And a gold organ. Now, why would you need a gold organ? I'm just saying, a gold organ. She was known as the Queen of Ohio. And she said she gave her money to the poor. I don't know if that was true or not, but that she had donations to the poor. She hit a snag in November of 1904, though, when a Massachusetts banker named Herbert Newton gave her a loan of $190,000. He then found out she received many other loans, and he demanded to be paid back. So I did read that, I guess when you borrow money, the loaner can demand to be paid back at any time, I guess. And that's what happened here. And she could not pay it back. He ended up suing her, and she had debts over $1 million. And someone asked Andrew Carnegie about her. Someone asked. I never found out who it was. I at least, not that I know who asked him, but someone did, or mentioned it to him. He said he never knew her, of course, and he said he never signed a promissory note in over 30 years. So he never did IOUs. I mean, come on. He said 30 years, he's never signed a promissory note. Cassie took off to New York and was arrested at a hotel. She was wearing a money belt that had over $100,000. Oh yeah, her name was Sorry, excuse me, I'm getting names mixed up. Her name was Chadwick when I said it wasn't Chadwick. Dr. Leroy Chadwick filed for divorce. See, I'm getting her husband's. Sorry about that. She was Chadwick at that time. And so he was married to her this whole time. He filed for divorce after she got busted for this. No, a money belt. I visualize the money belts when back in the 70s when people would go around with like collecting for or at a gas station, or people would collect for newspaper because I remember people would come to our door and mom would give them money and they'd put it in this little money belt with coins and stuff. That's what I picture. But she was wearing a money belt that had over $100,000. And, oh my gosh. One bank of Oberlin, it was the Citizens, I've got it written down here, Citizens National Bank, went bankrupt after loaning Cassie $800,000. The trial was full of media, and Andrew Carnegie attended the trial. He wanted to see who this lady was. And she was sentenced on March 10th of 1905 to 14 years and fined for $70,000 for conspiracy to bankrupt the Citizens National Bank. It was a federal bank. And she was sent to Ohio State Penitentiary in Columbus. Now her health started getting bad. So she wrote out funeral arrangements, and she instructed her son, Emil, to send money to purchase a tombstone. And she said the money was in Canada in quote unquote hidden funds. So that's what he did. And these hidden funds, I wonder, that must have been something else that she scammed, I'm thinking, out of to get money. September 17th, 1907, she suffered a nervous breakdown, leaving her blind. I've not heard of that. It was it was described as a collapse that left her blind. She suffered heart and stomach pain. Gosh, I can't even read my handwriting. I'm writing so fast when I was writing this down. Heart and stomach pain or problems. And that was on October 9th of 1907, and she died the next day, which would have been her 50th birthday. So she died on October 10th of 1907. And I've got a photo. I got on Find a Grave. The actual tombstone is big. I mean, that was a nice tombstone. Nowadays, this would cost a bundle of money. Can't imagine what this would cost nowadays. And it's old, so it's kind of hard to see the etching, but I'm going to have it up on my photo dump so everybody can see. Oh my gosh. I just am amazed at this story. So she died in 1907, and she was sentenced in 1905. So she only lived a couple years. It just said she had heart trouble and stomach trouble. Now, I've heard that stress can do this. I don't know if this whole time she was doing all this, she was stressed out, thinking people were going to find out. I don't know. But I have heard that stomach stress is not good for your stomach or your heart. And I also heard it's linked to cancer. I don't know if anybody else has heard that, but I have heard that stress is not good on your body in the long run. And back then, they did not have the medical technology they do now. They didn't have, and people were dying of pneumonia back then, or when they get sick and have the flu, they would die. So they didn't have the medicine. They didn't have, things that they do now. That's one of the big reasons I would not want to go back to that time, Because I know people, my mom's always saying, oh, I want to go back. I said, I don't. You want to live like that? She's like, well, I just want to go back for a day and see how it's done. See how, now I get that. I'd like to see like my grandmother when she was little and stuff like that. But, we have it way better nowadays, in my opinion, with this stuff. But that's the story of the notorious Queen of Ohio, Cassie Chadwick. So I'm hoping, I think I did pretty good with that one, getting all my names down and my notes down, except for the part that I forgot she was Chadwick at that time because she had married so many men. And I really don't understand. She was married to that one guy for 4 years and then all of a sudden filed for bankruptcy. But I guess she had her reasons. And that guy could have been abusive. I don't know. Who knows? But I don't know. There's just a lot of stuff in here or in her story that we couldn't get because it's so old, back in that time. But I love doing these old stories, and I thought this one just really fascinated me. And I like scam stories. If anybody else likes that stuff, let me know, because I do. Yeah, I am just amazed that people can get away with stuff. It just amazes me. I'm kind of surprised in a way she didn't have Andrew Carnegie bumped off or something. Because if he died, well, she told people if he died, her debts would be paid, but he didn't give he didn't give her his debts. So yeah, I guess she wouldn't do that. She had to keep the scam going, But when you think about it, that could be scary for someone who it's like, man, that's like impersonating somebody, even though the person didn't exist, the illegitimate daughter. But nowadays it'd be everybody's too cautious now. But back then they believed it, and she could talk the talk, and she knew how to play them. And that's what happened. Isn't that amazing? I just think that is just amazing that people can get away with stuff like that. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay. What have I been watching? I haven't been watching much on TV. I'm still watching The Unexpected Killer here and there. I've been so busy with my crafting and with work and appointments that hopefully next week things will slow down, and I need to get the 3rd July episode up for my Patreon and Spotify premium subscribers. I think I have one in mind. I have a couple in mind. Definitely have one in mind that I'm going to do. And it's funny because I just thought of one, and then one of my favorite podcasts, Coffee Crime Couple, did it. I was just thinking of it. I was just thinking of the guy's name. I had to look up the guy's name because I'm like, I know the guy's name. And they did the episode, and they did such a good job on it. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to wait on that one. It's not here. It's not in the Midwest, but it would be a Patreon one. But it's a one I'm probably going to not do unless I do it way later. But I will do it, though. Eventually. But I just try to kind of spread out. Like, I don't like when I hear it on a podcast when it's new, I don't want to do it right away, But I do like to hear different podcasters' take, though. Like, I will listen to popular ones like John Wayne Gacy, Jeffrey Dahmer. I'll listen to like that stuff because I like to hear the take on what other podcasters do and what they say about it. So that's why I like to hear different podcasters report on the same crimes sometimes. So I am getting stuck on M. William Phelps, Crossing the Line. If you want to hear a good podcast, this one's highly recommended. He gets to the point. There's not many ads. If there's an ad, it's like only maybe one or two. There's not many ads. He gets to the point, and he is so good at his reporting. He's got so many good episodes on there. It's binge-worthy. I've been binging it. Again, it's called Crossing the Line, and it's M. William Phelps. And he was the one that was on the show that my last episode on Bobby Joe Smith and Jennifer Jones. He was on that show that I talked about, Twisted Love on ID. He was on that episode talking about it, and he's got a wonderful, wonderful voice. And he also writes books, and I just downloaded on Audible the book on that. It's called Bad Girls, And I just downloaded it and I'm just starting to read it. He's not reading it though on Audible. I wish he was because I love his voice. But I am starting it, so I'm starting to listen to it. I have all these Audible books and I'll jump around and I'm like, oh, a new one's out and I'll start that one before finishing one. But I need to listen to this and finish the whole thing. I do that with ones that really, not like true crime. The true crime ones I want to listen to all the way through. Like I listened to The Lost Girls with the Cleveland Abduction. Speaking of that, there's a movie called Cleveland Abduction and you can't find it anywhere. Anywhere. You can't watch it anywhere. I think you can watch it on Apple TV, but I don't have that. And I think you can watch it on Prime, but you have to pay like $12 to watch it. And I'm like, why can't you find this anywhere? Like, no other channels have it. I mean, yeah, you can rent it on Amazon Prime for $12. It's just strange why I think it's a Lifetime movie, but I'm not positive on that. Because I looked it up and I saw that Lifetime had it. And I'm like, okay, how do I watch it? But it says this movie is not available to view in your area. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I so want to see that because the previews look so good. And I oh my God. And it looks like it's pretty sad. But I want to watch it. And I can't get it. I can't get it. It makes me so mad. So anyway, not much to report, or like I said, I do want to recommend Crossing the Line podcast. And if there's anything else, any suggestions, please let me know. You know, I like to kind of stay in the Midwest for the podcast. Patreon has them from everywhere, and Spotify Premium. And I'm hoping I can keep this podcast going because Spotify app is getting funny. And I was like, oh, I was getting so frustrated. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to break down ball in here because I cannot figure this out. I do forget password. I don't get the email. You know how they send you an email? I don't get the email. I had to finally change. I had to sign in a different way. You know, you could sign in with Google. You could sign in with Apple. You could blah, blah, blah. I had to do that. Then I had to change my password there because it wasn't taking it. It was just a big mess. So now I'm recording in Guitar Hero again. And uploading it because now Spotify for podcasters is not letting me record in that app at all. I was finding a way to do it and now it's nope, can't do it anymore. I don't know why they got to change things. Just leave everything alone, you know? Why change stuff? Anyway, okay, I'm not going to go on a rant. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, everybody. And this will be up for early access for my Patreon and Spotify subscribers. And it will drop tomorrow, July 26th on the podcast. Have a good one, everybody. And I will see you next time.